On the 8th of August 2022, 36-year-old Adam Richard Hodge of Pulaski, Virginia, was sentenced to 10 years behind bars for continuously abusing his 12-year-old twin boys between January to April of 2021. Adam said he was trying to discipline the boys because they had behavioural issues. The discipline including tying one of the boys to a wooden cross and beating him with another wooden cross, cutting them with box cutters and steak knives, striking them repeatedly in the head with a computer and the butt of a gun, or tying their hands together between their legs. He placed pillows over their heads and threatened to shoot them, telling them that no one will hear their muffled screams. He held one of the boys' head underwater in the river until he almost died. At first, Adam denied putting his head beneath the water, saying he hit his son and he fell into the river. He eventually admitted to doing it and said he wasn't thinking of the legalities at the time and was just thinking of the discipline. He reportedly urinated on his kids and threatened to cut off their genitals. He referred to the twins as demonic children and criminal masterminds. Adam said that at the time, he was experiencing temporary insanity, saying that none of the twins' actions were what he considered normal misbehaviour by children. He went on to claim that the twins would often laugh or smile when he'll confront them about misbehaving. He said, however, that his reactions were very out of control, wrong, illegal and inhumane. He said he had very little proof to show what he was dealing with in the house because his wife, who has since died of kidney failure, only knows. Adam also blamed his low blood sugar levels for some of his actions, but said he understands his actions weren't okay and wouldn't have worked. The abuse ended in April of 2021 when the Pulaski County Department of Social Services received a report of abuse allegations, and an investigation was launched where the authorities found evidence of long-term abuse, including scars on the children and other physical evidence at the home. Adam has been held at the New River Valley Regional Jail without bond since the 30th of April 2021. In April of 2022, Adam pleaded guilty to 8 felony counts of child abuse. The prosecutor called the abuse torture. According to Adam's mother, she and her husband obtained full custody of the twins when they were 11 months old. However, Adam sought and obtained 50-50 custody of the boys in the fall of 2020. Adam said he took custody of the children in 2020 because he overheard his mother tell his now deceased wife that one of the children allegedly pulled a knife on her. He took the police with him to his mother's residence and took custody of the children. Adam said he thought he could address the problems, but he couldn't. At that point, the grandmother testified that Adam stopped them from having any contact with the twins. The judge asked Adam if he had anything more to say before sentencing him. He said he was deeply sorry for his actions and will always regret what he chose to do. The judge then told Adam that his actions were cruel, inhumane, brutal, and completely unjustifiable. In addition to sentencing Adam to 10 years in prison, he was forever prohibited from having contact with the twins or any child under the age of 18. A man has admitted to ploughing his vehicle into a crowd of people, killing one and wounding 17 others at a fundraising event, before driving home and killing his mother with a hammer. On the 13th of August 2022, 24-year-old Adrian Reyes from Nescopeck, Pennsylvania, reportedly got into an argument with his mother before hopping into his Honda Accord and driving into the neighbouring Berwick. The investigator said he drove by the Intoxicology Department bar, where a crowd of roughly 75 people had gathered in the parking lot for a fundraiser for families of 10 who were tragically killed in a fire earlier this month. At 6:12 p.m. that day, he turned around after he decided to drive into the crowd. After barreling his way through the crowd, he killed 50-year-old Rebecca Reese, who was struck and then dragged by his car, and sent 17 others to hospital, with 5 left in a critical condition. Adrian told police he was just tired of fighting with his mother, and that he said he didn't ram them, he just ran them over. After the crash, Adrian drove back home. When he arrived, he saw his mother standing outside in the street. He floored the accelerator and crashed into her with the front of his car. He then got a hammer from his car and bashed his mother in the head 4 or 5 times with it. When police arrived on scene, they found the woman dead and arrested Adrian. As he was being led to court by the Pennsylvania State Police the following morning, Adrian said sorry. Adrian's facing 2 open counts of criminal homicide. He was denied bail and is currently being held at the Columbia County Correctional Facility. 33-year-old Monica Williams and 24-year-old Daquan Lindsay are behind bars after a toddler in their care died after being thrown against a wall. The incident occurred on the 9th of August 2022, when first responders arrived at the couple's home in St. Petersburg, Florida. to find 3-year-old Brandy Cruz unresponsive. The paramedics were able to revive the girl and transported her to the local hospital, but doctors determined that she had no brain activity and died 3 days later. The authorities said medical workers found burns, cuts, several fractures, and hundreds of small scars covering her body, all which were in various stages of healing. On the 12th of August, Monica and Daquan were arrested and charged with Brandy's murder, as well as abuse and neglect charge for another boy in their care. His injuries were said to be non-life-threatening. 2 other children, all under the age of 14, were removed from the home. 4 children in total lived in the home. During the investigation, police said that phone records reveal Brandy may have been unresponsive for more than half an hour before anyone called for help. Monica said that Brandy had been beaten with a belt countless times in the past, and that the girl's ankles and hands would be tied during the beatings. The couple both allegedly admitted that Daquan threw the 3-year-old child against the wall, causing head trauma and the girl to become unresponsive. Monica and Daquan are held at the Pinellas County Jail. 47-year-old William Brian Virgin from Dixon, Kentucky is behind bars after murdering his girlfriend. The incident occurred at around 9 a.m. on the 13th of August 2022, when William contacted Webster County Dispatch and told the operator that he strangled his girlfriend to death at their home. When the authorities arrived at the property, they found the lifeless body of 32-year-old Heather Davidson. Ashley Matt, Heather's sister, got a call at around 3 p.m. that day from her mother saying that her sister had been murdered. Ashley said, "I didn't really believe it. I'm just in shock and I don't really know what to think." Ashley said Heather dated William for about 5 years and lived with him in Dixon. When they were around each other, in my opinion, they seemed fine, but my mother said she had some gut feeling that there was something wrong. Ashley said she noticed her sister had become more distant. She was always a happy person, she said. She wouldn't tell you though if there's something wrong even if you tried to ask her. A neighbour described Ashley as a sweet person. The motive of the attack is unknown. William is currently being held at the Webster County Detention Center as the investigation into the matter continues. 48-year-old Veronica LaPrada is behind bars and is accused of a hit and run involving a 4-year-old girl. The incident occurred at around 4 p.m. on the 7th of August 2022, when a silver car struck a 4-year-old girl at the intersection of LaSure and Main Street in Mesa, Arizona, and then fled the scene. Mesa police officers relied on witnesses and video surveillance to identify the vehicle and the driver. Witnesses told the deputies that the vehicle had black rims and was driven by a white female with long hair. Video surveillance revealed that a vehicle displaying a black sticker just below the driver's side tail light and a red and white object in the back seat. The 4-year-old girl was transported to a local hospital and is currently being treated for a brain bleed, broken ribs, punctured lung, facial lacerations and facial fractures. She's expected to survive. 24 hours later, officers located a silver 2014 Hyundai that matched the description of the suspect's vehicle. The vehicle was located at an apartment located at 33 South Ashland Street in Mesa, Arizona. The vehicle was parked in a designated parking spot, which led the officers to their corresponding apartment, where they spoke to 48-year-old Veronica LaPrada. Veronica was identified as the registered owner of the Hyundai and the driver of the vehicle at the time of the collision. Veronica was arrested and charged for failing to remain on scene of a serious physical injury collision. She's held on a $50,000 bond. 3 men are accused of swindling a 90-year-old woman out of her life savings in Arbuckle, Georgia. The men met the victim while they were working for a local tree company. They were working on their own when they allegedly committed the crime. The elderly woman hired 39-year-old Robert Criswell, 28-year-old Cole Dover, and 23-year-old Hunter Hammett. She hired them for tree work and hanging shutters on her property. The men allegedly defrauded the woman out of $118,000 when she wrote as many as 33 checks for the work to be done for the months during December and April. In some instances, the hired men followed the woman to the bank for cash. After the job, trees and shrubs were left on the victim's property. Shutters that were intended to be hung were barely attached, were hanging crooked by one screw. The Floyd County Sheriff's Office said that these kinds of criminals often exaggerate damage and embellish their skills to give hope to victims who might only need small repairs. In return for little or no work being done, these scammers often drive away with small fortunes. Investigators believe the suspects were living at a campsite about 10 minutes away from the victim's home. The authorities followed them to the Creekside campsite near Johns Mountain, and they were arrested on the 10th of August. Rob and Kyle were charged with exploitation of the elderly and theft by deception. Hunter was charged with exploitation of the elderly, theft by deception and probation violation. Rob and Kyle remain held on a $15,000 bond, while Hunter is held without bond. Wendy's employee 35-year-old Antoine Kendrick has been charged with murder after he allegedly struck a customer who was upset about his drinks. The incident occurred at 4:41 p.m. on the 26th of July 2022 at a Wendy's store located at 3020 Glassford Road in Prescott, Arizona, when Antoine got into an argument with a 67-year-old man. The incident was captured on CCTV, where Antoine is seen at the register taking the order and then brings 3 drinks to the counter to the hunched-over customer, who then starts pointing at the cups and complaining about the order. Upset, Antoine comes from behind the service counter, and while the unidentified 67-year-old man lurches forward to lick one of his drinks, is oblivious that Antoine is approaching him. Antoine then stands next to him and delivers a powerful punch to the right side of the customer's head. The customer fell down and hit his head on the floor and then loses consciousness. Antoine looks at the man for a moment before he walks behind the counter, grabs his stuff, and exits the premises. The paramedics arrive shortly thereafter, and he was airlifted to a hospital in Prescott Valley in a critical condition. On the 15th of August, the Prescott police announced that the man died from his injuries on the 5th of August. Antoine was initially arrested and charged with aggravated assault, but that was upgraded to murder after the man died. Antoine remains held at the Yavapai County Jail. A Georgia mother has been arrested after police say she pepper sprayed a bus full of elementary school children. The incident occurred at around 7 a.m. on the 16th of August 2022, when the bus was picking up students at Brunswick Commons Court at Brunswick, Georgia. 30-year-old Shaquille Cooler confronted the bus driver over what was thought to be something said to her child. When she tried to get on the bus with the child, the bus driver started closing the door on her. She managed to get inside the bus and started arguing with the bus driver and the bus monitor. When the driver and the monitor tried removing her from the bus, Shaquille aimed and discharged the pepper spray at the 2 adults. Glenn County Schools Police said there were 24 students on the bus when Shaquille discharged a can of pepper spray. All students were treated at the scene by emergency medical services and taken to school via another bus. The driver and monitor were taken to the emergency room for further evaluation. Shaquille was charged with 3 counts of battery, criminal trespassing, first-degree cruelty to children, reckless disruption of operation of a public bus, and reckless conduct. She's held at the Glenn County Detention Center on a $10,000 bond. The investigation is ongoing. After 2 months on the run, 23-year-old Chloe Rennick of North Carolina is behind bars after being accused of drugging and robbing a man out of more than $50,000 in jewelry and other personal belongings. The incident occurred at around 1:30 a.m. on the 10th of June 2022, when Bobby Scully met Chloe at a local bar on Las Olas Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. After spending some time chatting, they both left and went to Bobby's apartment. Surveillance footage captured the pair holding hands when they entered his building, and then showed Chloe leaving by herself 2 hours later. The Fort Lauderdale police released a video on Twitter in June, hoping that someone would know of Chloe's whereabouts. Police believe that once inside Bobby's apartment, Chloe stole $52,000 worth of items, including an iPhone 12 Pro, $1,000 in cash, Bobby's wallet, and his Rolex and Breitling watches. Bobby said he couldn't recall any of the details from the night, including going back to his apartment, but he could remember not having any feeling in his legs. A toxicology report showed that Bobby had a cocktail of drugs and tranquilizers in his body. Chloe was arrested on the 15th of August 2022 in Henderson, Nevada. She was pulled over for driving with a suspended license. She was also charged with 1 count of grand theft for the 10th of June incident in Florida. It's unclear whether Chloe will be extradited to Fort Lauderdale to face charges. A woman killed a fellow panhandler while they fought over territory along the Chicago-Illinois Expressway. 26-year-old Mary Normand and homeless man 47-year-old Heriberton Hernandez had ongoing issues about panhandling on the southbound Edens Expressway exit ramp at Wilson Avenue. At 2:45 p.m. on the 12th of August, Mary accused Heriberton of panhandling on her turf. The disagreement quickly turned physical. Several witnesses watched as Mary chased after Eric Burton and repeatedly struck him with a 3-foot-long metal fencing stake. He retreated across the southbound exit lane, but she kept attacking him and pushed him, and he fell down under a moving box truck. The back wheels of the truck rolled over his chest. Even after he was run over by the truck, Mary continued to repeatedly beat him over the head and body with a stake as he cried for help and attempted to defend himself with his hands. Mary eventually dropped the stake after a witness intervened and she fled the scene. Eric Burton was rushed to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. He later died that evening from heart failure due to internal bleeding. The Cook County Medical Examiner ruled his death a homicide. Despite panhandling in the same area as Eric Burton, Mary is not homeless. Mary lives with her fiancé and has been working at a real estate company for the last 3 years. After Mary fled from the scene, she returned almost 5 hours later and was taken into custody. She's charged with murder and is held without bail as the investigation into the matter continues. 54-year-old Todd Wilbert is accused of fatally shooting his ex-girlfriend and business partner 59-year-old Elizabeth Gill after he snuck into her home and she refused to give him money. On the 13th of August 2022, Todd called Elizabeth several times asking her for money. At 7:30 p.m, Todd went to Elizabeth's home in the 1100 block of Ascot Lane in Kirkwood, Missouri. While he waited for her to arrive home, he drank wine on a back patio until after 10 p.m. He entered Elizabeth's house without her permission after she returned home. At around 10:15 p.m, Elizabeth contacted police and said Todd was inside her home pointing a gun at her. The dispatcher could hear Todd in the background, and 2 gunshots could be heard by the 911 dispatcher during the call. When officers arrived at the scene, they found Todd intoxicated and lying on a cement pad next to Elizabeth's home with a loaded gun nearby. Inside the home, deputies found Elizabeth dead. She'd been shot once in the face and once in the back, and police found 2 shell casings at the scene. Todd told police that he asked Elizabeth for money and waited for her on the back patio. He then asked investigators if she was still alive. Todd was charged with murder, armed criminal action, burglary and unlawful use of a weapon. He's held in custody without bail. Elizabeth's brother John Ingman said, "His sister was a wonderful lady. She absolutely had a heart of gold." Elizabeth was a mother of 3, a former math teacher and prep tutor, who for the past several years ran an online linens business that supplied products to hotels, he said. She had been separated from her husband for years and had dated Todd only briefly, but maintained a business relationship with him in which she'll pay him commissions for sales leads. John said that Todd shot her because Elizabeth had refused to float him in advance. He demanded more money and this is what it's all about, he said. It's ridiculous. He believes she deserved to die because of that, he said. St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney Wesley Bell said, "This is just tragic. We send our most heartfelt condolences to the family of the victim. Our office will do everything in our power to hold the individual accountable," he said. 2 men are behind bars after allegedly committing lewd acts against their adopted children. The investigation began at 4 p.m. on the 27th of July 2022, when officials raided a home in Loganville, Georgia, after receiving a tip that a man was downloading child sexual abuse material. The suspect admitted to receiving the child porn and identified a second suspect in Oxford, Georgia. The first suspect, whose name has not been disclosed, reportedly told authorities that a second individual was creating child porn with at least 1 child who lived in his home. At around 11:30 p.m. that same day, the Sheriff's Office executed a search warrant at 813 St. Regis Way in Oxford. At the scene, the authorities learnt that 35-year-old Zachary Zulock and his 32-year-old husband William Zulock were allegedly engaging in sexually abusive acts and video documenting the abuse involving their 2 adopted children. The Sheriff's Office assembled a small team to move the children out of the home to safety during the search. Early the next morning, the Zulocks were booked into the Walton County Jail. Both men have been charged with aggravated child molestation, sexual exploitation of a child, and enticing a child for indecent purposes. The investigation into the matter continues.